I am your host, James Yoder, Michigan Football Report, question and answer mailbag, taking your questions from our live show Tuesday night. If you're watching us later in the week, we might cut this and put it out there later in the week. So if you watch us live, keep watching, let it play. But you may have already seen some of these questions. We will take questions and anything you guys want, within reason, of course. So go ahead and comment them. Use hashtag Michigan so producer Jack sees them at the top of his queue, or super chat to jump the line and get right on the show. Jack, you may have to read this to me. My eyes are not good enough. So why do you think the committee put Clemson over Michigan? Yeah, he thinks Michigan looks better than Clemson in the eye test. He thinks Michigan would beat Clemson. I'm with you, Hebrew Hammer. Really appreciate the question here. I don't know, right? As tough as of an answer for me to give you guys that I don't know. That's just the general truth here. Is maybe they're I don't think the committee plays games as much as fans want us to think we play games, but I do also know that college football becomes a worse sport if bigger portions of the country don't care about it. And if you just turn into a region super sport, the Midwest and a segment of the South, then what is the West? What is the rest of the Midwest, the East? Do they not care about college football? The East Coast, the upper portion of the country, Northeast, do they stop caring about college football if they don't feel like their teams are among the elite in college football? So I'm not saying they're playing games, but maybe it's just to kind of keep the top 5, top 4 a little bit more mixed up with conference leaders. Clemson's going to get the opportunity to play their way in. If they go undefeated, they should be in the college football playoff, and they will. They'll prove it on the field against Notre Dame on Saturday on the road. They'll have an opportunity against Clemson. They'll have a very weak opponent in the ACC championship game if they make it there, and things will play each other out, play its way out. I hope that Clemson loses to Notre Dame on Saturday because I think it gives Michigan the best opportunity to get in the college football playoff no matter what happens against Ohio State on November 26th. Oscar, what does it say? Saavedra, he says, should we try and go pass heavy against Rutgers? Should, yes. Will they? I doubt it. And why do I doubt it? Because I think we just know what Jim Harbaugh is at this point. Let's go back to 2018. Riddle me this. I haven't told the story many times in my life, at least not on this show. I went to the 2018 Michigan-Ohio State game. Michigan was number 4 in the country. Ohio State was like 8th. They both lost one game at that point, but Michigan was favored, right? Michigan was coming off a streak of just dominating teams, dominating Penn State and Michigan State and a couple other teams. And they went into Columbus favored by a few points, and they got absolutely curb stomped, 62-39. And I think that 2017-2018 season, if you look back, that was kind of an explosion of offense in the college football. Baker Mayfield, Deshaun Watson, Tua Tagovailoa in 17 and 18, Dwayne Haskins, and we've kind of seen it continue on from there. And what Jim Harbaugh said to himself is like, well, this is the way we've got to win now. I've got to go do that. Go get Josh Gattis, trying to do speed and space, all this different stuff. It didn't work out. 2020 season, just the complete program almost falls apart. I don't know really why or what happened there, but I think after the 2020 season, Jim Harbaugh had to, kind of beg for his supper from Michigan's athletic department. Had to take a pay cut, and he said, we're not going to beat the Sunshine Boys with more sunshine, the passing happy teams with more passing. Let's zag while they're zigging. Let's zig while they're zagging. Let's become what I was at Stanford, went head-to-head with Oregon, head-to-head to USC back in 2010. Let's be the most dominant running team in the country. Someone said to me recently, a couple days ago, they said, Michigan has a chance right now to be the most dominant team on the ground that this college football sport has seen since 1995 Nebraska, if they can keep up the next 4 or 5 weeks like the last 4 or 5 weeks, right? 1995 Nebraska, in my opinion, the best team college football in my lifetime. Maybe LSU 2019 could rival them, but most dominant, 1995 Nebraska. Go ahead and predict the score, guys. Michigan heading on the road for a night game. Second night game in a row. First one on the road so far this year. The previous few night games, Indiana, Iowa, etc., those were noon games, big noon, 4 straight weeks. Michigan has played 2 night games this year, Hawaii and Michigan State. Beat Hawaii, 59-10, and then Michigan State we saw 29-7. So let me know what your score is. My prediction at this point, They've said 42-3 is what I'm putting down for Michigan, although I do think the 42 might be tougher than the 3, not because of what Michigan has on offense, but this Rutgers defense, it's a focus of their program, and it clearly is the focus of their head coach, Greg Schiano, so I don't think Michigan will just be able to trample all over Rutgers like they have several other teams, but Penn State, Michigan State clearly have more talent than Rutgers, so it all depends on how Michigan's team comes out and plays on Saturday night in Rutgers. What's this guy? Travis Hamler says James is special ed. What a jerk! We should ban that guy from the channel. You tweeting him? I just got him. Report ban. Travis Hamler banned for life. You're gone. Manuel Riggins says, why do we refuse to do something different in the red zone, and why do we hesitate throwing the ball downfield? These are the questions. If anyone has the answer to them, you might be the best coach in college football because you could decipher a game plan against Michigan, or you can come in and decipher a game plan for Michigan to be better at passing. What I see from this Michigan offense in the red zone is fear, right? It's fear and wanting to rely on what you know. Fear that J.J. McCarthy is going to fumble the ball. Fear that they're going to throw an interception. Fear that he's going to take a sack and knock him from a 37-yard field goal back to a 50-yard field goal and miss it. I think Jim Harbaugh and the Michigan coaching staff knows that they have an issue. I don't think they know how to solve it right now, or they probably would have solved it. And over the last few weeks, it doesn't even seem like they're even trying to solve it, right? The play calling in the red zone, they have a few imaginative play calls. There's been a shovel pass here or there and some other stuff, but what I'd love to see them do against Rutgers, where you should have no problem, even if you throw an interception, even if you take a sack, even if you miss a field goal, it shouldn't matter against Rutgers, is when you get between the 10 and the 20-yard line, have a set of 4 or 5 plays, throw the ball in the end zone 3 times, even if it means you go 3 and out inside the 20, have to kick a field goal, that's fine. And then have another set of plays where J.J. McCarthy can roll out, have the defense kind of chase him down, and he could run, get out of bounds maybe, get the end zone, or have 2 or 3 wide receiver options, tight end, running back options that he can pass to. And it hasn't happened much this season. Michigan, one of the worst teams in the country when it comes to passing touchdowns in the red zone. 44 trips so far this year, only 9 passing touchdowns. Becky and Chad says, how are the members ranking these? Teams? Yeah, what I'm trying to do here, Jack, is I'm trying not to squint and show people how bad my eyes are. So I appreciate Jack in my ear, because I have to do one of these, because the TV, the monitor that's got these questions is about 7 feet away from me with the camera. But nevertheless, it depends on this committee. It changes every year, and we don't always know what they value. There's been certain committees that have valued who you lost to. Maybe that's why Alabama's ranked above TCU. There's certain committees that say only who you beat seems to matter. There are certain committees that say it's the totality of the strength of your schedule, plus did you win a game against a ranked team on the road? Did you dominate your team? Did you pass the eye test? Did you win a conference championship game? All those things matter, and so why we've seen in the past why these rankings can fluctuate so much. What I think the reason Clemson got the nod over Michigan is because they've got multiple ranked wins versus Michigan's 1 ranked win against Penn State, despite how dominant that Michigan win against Penn State was. And then the other thing I want to kind of point out is thinking that Georgia is ranked below Ohio State, which takes away the 1 versus 2 narrative, which I think would be cool for college football. But nevertheless, is Ohio State has been more dominant than Georgia throughout the season. They both started off the year in big out-of-conference games. The first week of the year, Georgia was super dominant against Oregon. Ohio State, not that dominant against Notre Dame, but since then, Georgia's had their ups and downs. They've struggled. Like Kent State kept it close against Georgia and some other games. And then Ohio State has pretty much, outside of Penn State when they were losing with 9 minutes left in the game and then scored like 3 touchdowns in the last 9 minutes, mostly due to their defense, Ohio State has been realistically the most dominant team in college football from the second weekend of the year to like the 8th. At the 1st and the 9th, right, the opening weekend and this past weekend, they weren't as dominant, but that's why I think they got the number 2 nod over Georgia. Let me know what you guys think. Who's the most overrated top 25 team? I'm going to throw one out there for you guys. Jack, if you have the rankings up still, what was North Carolina in the rankings? They were like 17th, weren't they? Do you have that up still in front of you? I'll have to circle back and ask there. But North Carolina, 17th ranked in these rankings. They only have 1 loss, and that was to Notre Dame. I think they're one of the most overrated teams in all of college football. Now, why do I think that? It's because they've had so many close calls so far this year. I want to just take a glance here as we've got this up on the screen. Bear with me for just one moment. They second game of the year, they beat Appalachian State 63-61. That's right, Appalachian State 63-61. Then a 7-point win over Georgia State, a loss to Notre Dame. They crushed Virginia Tech, beat Miami by 3. Miami by 3. Josh Gattis' offense stinks. They didn't even score a touchdown this past week. They had to go to triple overtime where you're just doing 2-point conversions to beat, who they beat this past week, Miami. Somebody who sucks. I think it was Virginia Tech. That's what it was, or Virginia. They beat Duke by 3. Then they beat Pitt 42-24. North Carolina should have 3 or 4 losses. They've got coming up Virginia, Wake Forest, Georgia Tech, and North Carolina State. They'll probably lose at least 1, if not 2 of those games. But I think this is one of the most overrated teams in the top 25. Other people will say maybe Alabama, but Alabama's going to have every opportunity to play LSU, who's now a top 10 team for some reason. And then they'll play, if they win that and win out, beat Auburn, etc., they will play the winner of Georgia and Tennessee in the SEC championship game. Any idea of the start time of the Nebraska game? I would love to know the start time of the Nebraska game because I've got a bunch of plans that weekend. I'm trying to figure it out. But as of yet, don't know. Haven't even seen any inklings. I can tell you for sure it's not going to be a night game unless something for some reason drastically changed because of the night slate that is already set up for that weekend. So plan it to be either a 12 or a 3:30, but not going to be a night game. Michigan, Nebraska coming up here. What that was in 2 weeks, right? Yeah, coming up in it's the road game. What's that? 2 weeks from now. That is a week. That's the 12th. Yeah, a week from Saturday. So Michigan's got Illinois on the 19th, Ohio State on the 26th. Prior to that, Nebraska on November 12th, and then Rutgers coming this week. So it's away, home, away to end the year. But don't expect that Nebraska game to be anything other than a 12 or a 3:30. I'm going to guess it's going to be a 12 just because that's what it seems that Michigan's games have been this year. They've either been 12 games, 12 o'clock, or a night game. Help us get to 23,000 subscribers. Jack, we've updated that number. We have 22,524 subscribers on this channel. The most watched as far as audience program of any Michigan football program, radio show, TV show, podcast, Twitter space, anything on planet Earth. We, for the 3rd straight year, have led all metrics. There's plenty of services out there that kind of can look and rank all the podcasts, all the the local radio stations. You guys might be surprised. Those local radio stations, the Ann Arbor WTKA, 3,000 listeners per day. 3,000 listeners per day, per show, I should say, right? And we're 5, 6, 7, 8 times that on the average day here at the Michigan Football Report. And most of the podcasts, even the official Michigan Go Blue podcast with John Jansen, gets less audience than this one. So thank you so much to all of us, all you guys that have helped us grow over the past 3 or 4 football seasons. We really appreciate it. It's youtube.com/Michigan TV. Send the link to a friend. Anthony Chandler Ford says, do you believe Michigan is holding back their playbook so they can surprise Ohio State? Because I feel like they did that last year. Did they? Right? I love to believe it, but if they are, I don't think it's something drastically different, like new sets, new formations, right? What did they catch Ohio State off guard with last year? Well, 2 things. Runs to Hassan Haskins and Blake Corum, right? Remember those. And I guess you call a run to A.J. Henning. But remember, back in 2019, Giles Jackson scored the same exact play that A.J. Henning scored on. Same setup, too, the first score of the game for Michigan. So it wasn't anything Ohio State hadn't seen. What you'll probably see from a holding things back against Ohio State is you will see wrinkles of plays that they have gone to a bunch. So let's just say J.J. McCarthy's in shotgun, Blake Corum standing next to him, and typically it's handoff this way to Blake or JJ runs this way. Maybe you'll see something like that. Instead of the read option, it's straight up the middle and a tight end kind of come across the formation and lead blocks up the middle. Or it is a, JJ pulls it back and Blake goes out for a pass, potentially JJ backs up. I think those wrinkles, and if you watch the analysis that Big Ten Network, I'm not going to act like I'm a telestrator kind of guy. Big Ten Network and Urban Meyer especially, I'll give him a lot of credit. They have done a really good job on some of their shows, midweek, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday shows, of showing all the wrinkles this Michigan running game has put in so far this year. And so if we have anything they're holding back, I think it's some variation. You're going to show this tendency against Ohio State. They'll probably go the other way with the tendency, even though they might show it a couple times, hit him with the opposite of it later in the game when it matters the most. Barry McCockiner, what a great name. Josh Gattis is the biggest con man ever. Well, he certainly fleeced 2 schools, if not 3, for millions by just coming up with a mantra that sounds cool, speed and space. And then, I don't know, because Jim Harbaugh didn't want to fire his offensive coordinator going into what could have been Harbaugh's last year at Michigan in 2021. Harbaugh was in the hot seat coming into last year, didn't want to replace offensive and defensive coordinator, so fired Don Brown, kept Josh Gattis. Gattis won the Broyles Award for the best, assistant in college football last year, which is wild because it wasn't his offense. Go watch a Miami game. Watch the Miami game this weekend. Watch any Miami game this year. You tell me if that offense looks anything like what Michigan ran the last year or at all so far this year. It's completely different. And guys like Sam Webb and all these local journalists will say, "Oh, Josh Gattis told us that he runs this offense." That's all they said last year. It was completely false, completely fake. Gattis had to take a step back. He called the plays, but the plays that he was allowed to call weren't plays that he had shown in 2020 and 2019. So here's the playbook, Josh. It's my playbook, Jim Harbaugh says, and Matt Weiss says, who kind of was taking the reins away from him last year, Sherrone Moore. Call one of these plays, and I'm not even going to get the opportunity. I'm going to tell you if it's run or pass, which what Josh Gattis had to deal with a lot last year. Jim Harbaugh said, let's give it a run. Let's run here. Let's run Hassan. And Gattis had 2 or 3 plays he could call in that scenario. So shout out to Josh Gattis for, making an impression on a lot of recruits' moms over the year. No pun intended. I don't know what's going on there, Jack. I've heard that rumor too. And then for making millions of dollars for being one of the most overrated coaches in the history of college football. So is he a big con man? No. But for some reason, he can sell himself to athletic directors and college football head coaches despite his inability to put up any results on the field.